Hello everyone, it's Emma and welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited to start this new series, which is really zero waste in the outdoors. Leave no trace is what it's called in the outdoors. So zero waste is essentially like leaving no trace that you were here in like city life and everyday life, and leave no trace is like leaving no evidence that you were there while you were out hiking, out recreating outdoors, in whatever activity that may be. So today we're just going to be talking about the basics of leave no trace. There are 7 principles we're going to be covering, and then we're going to be talking about what each of them are and how you can apply them the next time you are out hiking, biking, kayaking, whatever sort of outdoor rec that you're doing. But before we jump into that, if you are new here, I'd really appreciate if you hit the subscribe button and join this community. We talk about all sorts of things zero waste, focusing on free, easy, and fun ways to live low waste and practical ways to be an activist. And if you find any value in this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. And I'm really excited to start this series because it combines my 2 passions, which is eco-friendly living and outdoor rec. If you didn't know, I love hiking, I love backpacking, I love biking, I love walking. I really love being outdoors in any way that I can be. Yeah, I'm really excited that I can combine these 2 passions into one and then start educating you guys about Leave No Trace as well. So in May, I actually became a Leave No Trace Master Educator, so if anyone's hiring, I'm getting out of the Air Force next fall. Being a Leave No Trace Master Educator is really important to me because I already teach you guys online, and so I think it would be really cool to be able to teach in-person classes and really get more information out there to the greater audience about how to have no impact or less of an impact wherever you are recreating. Let's first talk about these 7 principles of Leave No Trace. The first one is to prepare and plan ahead. Number 2, travel and camp on durable surfaces. Number 3, dispose of waste properly. Number 4 is to leave what you find. Number 5 is to minimize campfire impacts. Number 6 is to respect wildlife, and number 7 is to respect and be considerate of others. So the 7 principles are widely applied no matter where you are. If you're in the front country, the back country, kayaking, canyoneering, on glaciers, on a beach, wherever you are, though they do vary a little bit depending on where you are recreating. We're briefly just going to go over vaguely what the principles are, but we're going to be gearing it more toward the front country, since I feel like a lot of you guys, when you're out hiking, you're most likely hiking near roads, near plumbing. That's what the front country is. But really, these front country principles can be applied anywhere. So the first principle, prepare and plan ahead. It's a little more easy to remember. Know before you go. So this means be ready for your adventures. Have maps ready, have water, have the correct sun equipment, sun protection, know what the weather's going to look like, have a backup plan in case something changes, make sure that you have the stuff to take care of your pets. And we're going to be talking about more about pet waste on principle number 3. But briefly, pick up your dog's poop, put it in the dog poop bags. I know nobody likes doing it, and we'll talk about more why it's important later. But most importantly, pack it out. I see so many times people bag the poop and then leave it there on the trail. What is the point of that? That is more wasteful than just leaving the poop. Even if you think you're going to be able to find it later, you might hide it too well. You might not be able to find it. And you also might come back a different way. If the trail branches off different directions, you might not come back the same way you came, and then it becomes litter. So I guess that's another part of know before you go, is know where the trash cans are and know how you're going to be disposing of your waste properly. As you're going to see, all these 7 principles really do tie into one another. Principle number 2 is travel and camp on durable surfaces. If you think that's a little bit confusing, don't worry. I thought so too at first. What this means is you want to stick to the trails. You want to stick to the pavement. A durable surface is something that can be disturbed and it won't be ecologically impacted. So what that looks like is you're not going to want to like trample on something like a coral reef. Plants in general, stuff that's really not going to come back if you destroy it. But things like dirt, sand, rocks, pavement, all that stuff, if you disturb it, it really is not going to have much of an impact. A common thing that I see here is switchbacks. If you don't know what switchbacks are, it is when you like zigzag up a mountain. It helps it be less steep. I see way too often people cutting switchbacks, like cutting the corner or just going straight up. The trail is there for a reason, so please use it. And the more people that cut those switchbacks, the wider that the trail becomes, the more susceptible it is to flooding and erosion. So sticking to the trail is not only important for not trampling on wildlife and plants, but it also helps the trail over the long run. And as I already mentioned, please don't trample on plants. Grass is typically fine if that is the only option, especially if there's a sign that says like ecological restoration. Please don't walk on that, because once it's trampled, it's really hard to come back. And there's actually some plants in the desert that are so sensitive to like disturbances that if you trample on them, it could literally take hundreds or thousands of years for them to come back. And then the same goes with camping. Camp on things like a dirt patch, and then camp already in disturbed areas. Don't build a new campsite if there's something that's already usable for you. Number 3, and probably why I got into leave no trace in the first place, is dispose of waste properly. That's really why I got into zero waste in the first place as well. So this looks like packing out your trash. If you, you take a Powerade with you, put your bottle back in your pack, zip it so that it doesn't fall out, and then make sure you carry it back either to a trash can or recycling bin at the visitor center at the trailhead, or just take it all the way home with you to dispose of properly. And then the same goes for picking up trash if you see it. It's frustrating. I know it's not my job to pick up someone else's trash. It's not your job to pick up someone else's trash. It's each person's responsibility, but sometimes it blows out of people's packs. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're not littering. Sometimes they are, but as always, we are all responsible for keeping this place clean, the earth in general, because we only have one home. So the better that we all take care of it, the better that everything can be. But this also looks like securing your waste as well. If you're having a picnic and it's a windy day, put a rock on top of your stack of napkins, put a rock on top of the stack of paper plates so that they don't blow everywhere. Make sure that you're zipping your tent shut, make sure you're zipping your backpack shut and closing your car doors so that nothing blows out of there as well. What about food waste? This is a very controversial topic, which shouldn't be controversial at all because it's just one rule. It's plain and simple. Pack out your food waste as well. I made a video about this on TikTok and people hated it. I get it. I thought the same thing for a long time, that leaving food waste out in nature is fine. After all, food is natural, right? Yes and no. We're gonna use orange peels for an example. First off, oranges, they are not native to Las Vegas, to the southern Nevada area. So leaving that fruit peel there, it could harm the wildlife. If they ingest it, it's not a native plant to them. It could also, if there's seeds in like an apple core or something, it could start an invasive species like breakout. And also people think that food waste, it'll decompose if I throw it out. It's better than putting it in the landfill. While that might be correct if you live in the Midwest or the Pacific Northwest, it's not the same if you live in the desert or if you're just coming to the desert to have a quick hike. The desert is very dry, very little water, and the soil is very different makeup than it is in other parts of the country. It's rocky, it's sandy. So I've seen orange peels be out in the desert, I suspect for probably weeks or months. They literally just turn hard as stone. They don't really break down in the desert. Not just orange peels, pretty much any food waste. Even composting in my backyard in a controlled area is very difficult in the desert. So it doesn't always decompose. And just because it decomposes doesn't mean it's a good thing to do, because this is really what it all comes down to when it comes to food waste, is it can really affect the animals. Not only could it make them sick if they eat something that they shouldn't be eating, but also it makes them reliant on humans for food. This isn't such a big deal with things like squirrels and deer because they're not that harmful, but when you really see a big impact is bears. Also moose, wolves, coyotes, things that can actually do a lot of harm to humans. But even with the smaller animals, it could teach them to be so reliant on humans that they forget how to hunt. Maybe not in one generation, but over a few generations, they can be so reliant on humans, they don't know their natural instincts anymore. But also, let's track back to the dangerous animals. If you've ever recreated in bear country, you know that there are bear boxes at campgrounds. These are things that bears cannot open. And then when you're hiking, you also have to have a bear can. You have to secure your food properly so that bears can't eat it. Because if bears eat it, they're going to get a taste for human food. They're going to start to really enjoy human food, and they're going to get closer and closer and closer to where humans live. They could get hit by cars. They could cause accidents and attacks on humans. It could have very drastic impacts, injuries, and even death to humans. And then even if the humans aren't injured, the bear could be killed because it could be seen as a threat to humans because we're feeding them. Like, it's our fault that they're being a threat to humans. So that's really what it all comes down to. I know that one was a long-winded principle, but it's something that's very, very important that I feel like a lot of people overlook because they think food is natural, it'll decompose, it's better than the landfill, and it can have a snowball of effects. That was food and litter. Now we're going to talk about human waste and also dog waste. This is pretty simple when you're in the front country. Go in the toilets. A lot of toilets are available in big popular parks, but say a toilet is not available, what should you do? But generally, let's talk about pee. Peeing outside is very simple. If you squat to pee, it can be a little bit harder for you, but the rules are very simple, and that is be 200 feet away from a water source. That's it. If you don't know what 200 feet looks like, it is about 70 adult-sized steps. Because I don't know about you, but if you pee in a river, people drink from that river. Animals drink from that river. When you're in the backcountry, your only source of water is lakes and streams, and if someone pees in that, then that is disgusting. But now, pooping outside. Of course, take advantage of toilets when they're available, but sometimes nature calls, you can't get back to a toilet. Sometimes you're in the backcountry and you're miles away from a toilet. What should you do? General rule of thumb is to dig a cat hole. because cats dig to poop. For humans though, it needs to be 6 to 8 inches deep. That is where the best level of decomposition happens, and it's also less likely to be disturbed by animals. So 6 to 8 inches, I don't know, maybe the size of like your hand. If you've got like a small notebook, you can use that for a gauge. And again, pooping in a hole also has to be done 200 feet away from water. Wag bags. I have a series now on TikTok about wag bags, which is literally pooping in a bag and carrying out your human waste. It is not pleasant, but sometimes it's what has to be done when you are on glaciers, when you are in canyons, because when you're in a canyon, you can't get 200 feet away from a water source. But they're also starting to mandate wag bags on trails that are becoming so popular that there's just too much poop on the trail. It's so gross. But if wag bags are required, stop at the visitor center, ask about it. If it is required, they will give you one, like they're free. If you have more questions about that, let me know. Check out my TikTok series, and again, ask the rangers if you have questions about it too. Finally, rule number 4, leave what you find. This is one of the principles I also had a lot of time wrapping my head around because I'm one who loves to collect sticks and rocks and plants, but imagine if everyone was to go out and take one rock home. It might not seem like a lot, but some national parks get millions. I'm talking like 3+ million visitors per year. If everyone took 1 or 5 rocks home, that's 3 million less rocks in the park. So the point of this principle is to leave it how you find it so that your kids, your grandkids, the next visitor right in line behind you can enjoy exactly what you enjoyed. Because if we each take a flower or a pine cone or whatever, there's not going to be much left in a few decades for other people to enjoy. But this also looks like leaving plants alone and leaving rocks alone. So please don't graffiti and please don't carve into rocks. I also have done a few graffiti removal projects here in Southern Nevada, and it's a lot of work. People go in there, they take supplies and scrubbing equipment and all this stuff out there on the trails and spend hours scrubbing away at your graffiti, so please don't do that. Number 5, be careful with fire. This is very important for your safety as well as the safety of other visitors, the animals, and it could potentially cause wildfires. I think fires are often necessary with camping. They provide warmth, entertainment, cooking, but there are also other options as well. Like we're going back to principle number 1, know before you go. Check to see if fires are even allowed in that area before you go, because oftentimes in the desert Southwest and even in California in general, fires are not allowed, particularly in summer, but sometimes all year round. But also, going back to prepare and plan ahead, is to think of other options. Instead of building a campfire to cook your meal, see if you can use a campfire, like a camping stove instead. Instead of using a campfire for heat, just bring a few extra layers. But when building a campfire, again, check to see if it's permitted. And then second, also check the rules around wood, because a lot of areas will not allow you to bring wood from wherever you came from, and they also won't allow you to gather wood either. So you have to buy wood at the visitor center or local gas stations. Also use existing fire rings and keep it contained. You don't want to put a fire ring over like some plants, especially dead plants that can catch on fire. And then looping it back to number 3, dispose of waste properly. Never put trash in your fire. A few pieces of paper here and there to use as like an ignition, not so bad, but don't put plastic in there. Plastic fumes can be harmful to the environment. And then things like glass and metal really won't burn all the way, so then you're just leaving trash for the next visitors. And then of course, please extinguish your fires completely. Don't leave any hot coals, any hot embers. If it's still glowing red or orange or yellow, it's not completely extinguished. And also, don't go to sleep either at your campsite while the fire is still hot or going. That can be very harmful for you. You could get sparks on your tent or whatever. And again, this could create wildfires. Number 6 is to keep wildlife wild. We already talked about this with food waste, but there are a few more things to this as well. So I'm going to harp on it once again. Please pack out your food scraps. Please do not intentionally feed the wildlife. I saw someone doing that recently. But this also goes for proper storage of your food, especially if you're in bear country. Keep your food locked in your cars. Keep it in bear cans, what do they call them? Bins, bear boxes. But even when you're not in bear country, you should keep your food stored properly so that you don't get pests in it. And again, it all just comes back to animals becoming reliant on humans no matter what size the animal. But keeping wildlife wild also looks like don't approach the wildlife, take pictures from afar, admire them from afar. Please do not approach them. I actually went to a Leave No Trace class when I was back in Ohio, and the instructor had a really good rule of thumb. You literally used your thumb. If you can cover the entire wildlife with your thumb, whether that be a squirrel, a moose, whatever it is, you're far enough away. But if you're like looking at a moose and you can see its antlers peeking out behind your thumb, you should probably scoot back a few more feet so that way there's no bad interactions between you and the animal. And then number 7, to respect others as well. It doesn't only come down to respecting wildlife, but you need to respect others on the trail as well. And really this just ties in all the principles. It is disposing of your waste properly. It is picking up your trash. It is not leaving your dog poop on the trail. It is not leaving your food all over the trail. Making sure that your fire is extinguished and so forth. But it also looks like things like, don't play your music too loud. That is my personal pet peeve. I don't care if you're out there laughing and having a good time, but if you're blasting your music on your speaker enough for the entire campground to hear, you're being too loud. That is not being considerate of others. This also looks like making sure you know who has right-of-way on a trail. If you didn't know, the person going uphill has right-of-way, so if you're coming downhill and the trail is not big enough for two people to pass side by side, step off the trail a little bit to let them pass. Of course, travel and camp on durable surfaces when you can. If you have to step off the trail to let someone pass and you have to step off the trail to let like a horse pass, you have to do what you have to do. Something that I think people don't think about enough too, this is also with pets, especially with dogs. I see a lot of people with off-leash dogs, and it doesn't matter how great a recall your dog has, people don't like dogs. Even if your dog has good recall, they might see a squirrel, they might dart off. That's not leaving wildlife wild if your dog is chasing the wildlife. And of course, I don't want you to not bring your pets. Bring your pets. Your pets love getting out as well, but please leave them on a leash no matter how well behaved they are. It's for everyone's safety and everyone's enjoyment. And please pick up after your pets. I can't stress that enough. And dispose of their waste in a trash can, please. And really, at the end of the day, just be kind, say hello, respect other people's preferences, be kind and considerate, and just remember that the wilderness doesn't belong to one particular person. When you go out there, you're recreating at that park with tens or hundreds or thousands of other people, and everyone's there for their own individual reasons, so let everyone enjoy it how they want to enjoy it and be considerate of others. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will definitely be doing more zero waste in the outdoors, leave no trace content for you guys, so let me know what you want to learn more about. If you have a question about a specific principle, how to be more zero waste when you're camping, like zero waste camping essentials, let me know. I would love to make content like that. And again, if you're new here and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, I would love to have you as part of this community. Let me know what other low waste ways that you recreate outdoors, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to share with others if you think that they would find value in this video as well. And until next time, remember that your small actions have a big impact in the long run. Bye guys. Let's first talk about these 7 principles of leave no waste. Leave no trace. Oh my gosh. And it's also less like to let and then also again prepare and plan ahead. But keeping wildlife wild also looks like don't approaching it